Hi, this is Paul. Welcome to my spoilers review of The Mummy, the movie starring Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe, Annabelle Wallis, Sophia Boutella, Jake Johnson, Courtney B. Vance. And of course, this is supposed to be the kickstart of Universal's Dark Universe, their cinematic monster universe. And I was so looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the horror, the Universal horror movies. And, I got the Mummy movie. I've seen the Mummy, the original. I haven't seen the sequels. There's four like sequels. One, two, three, four, five, like five sequels that. Well, I've seen the fifth sequel, the Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. That I've seen, but the other four I haven't seen. So I'm looking forward to watching that. Like I said, I was a big fan of the Mummy movie, and when I seen these trailers and saw that Tom Cruise was going to be in this one, and he was going to have a female Mummy, I was super excited for this, and the fact that they was going to start the Universal Cinematic Universe. I was so looking forward to seeing this, but ultimately it was a disappointment. I did a review of this movie, spoiler free, on my other channel, my main channel, Trey Pastor, and the link is in the description box if you want to see that. Okay, but this review is going to be spoilers, so I'm going to talk about spoilers. So if you don't want to watch any if you get any spoilers, feel free to follow the link to my other channel, Trey Pastor, and you can watch my review where I don't spoil anything. Here, I'm going to spoil everything. Okay, and why I was disappointed, ultimately, this movie tried to be so many different things and it did it badly. Like I was saying in my other review, The Mummy, the one with Brendan Fraser, that movie, especially the first two movies. The third movie, I didn't care for much because Rachel Weisz wasn't in it. And it was just poorly. I don't think it was that great a story, even though they had Jet Li in it. I don't think it was that great a story. But the first two movies, they understood what it was, what they were trying to do, to make an action romance comedy with a little bit of horror in there, and it worked for those movies. That's why those movies were very successful, because they understood what they were, and Brandon Fraser played up to that, and so did Rachel Weisz, and especially I forgot the other actor, the British actor that was in it who played her brother. I can't think of his name right now. I'll put it on the video, but he was hysterical. He was a funny sidekick character to that. But anyway, this movie ultimately, like I said, tried to be too many different things, and basically, like I said, you've seen the trailers. Tom Cruise and Tom Cruise's character Nick Morton and his buddy Jake Johnson, who played his buddy Chris. They were like soldiers in the army, but what they actually did were going around. They were actually stealing artifacts. They were going around actually stealing artifacts while they were in the midst of the army. And of course, Courtney B. Vance, where they're like superior, he's like a colonel, and he was totally wasted in this movie. Courtney B. Vance, like I said, I think he was probably stayed on set for a day probably, because all he was there to do was to yell at them, Tom Cruise and Jake Johnson, yell at them and then not punish him, and then ultimately get stabbed by a possessed Jake Johnson. So that was, an actor of Courtney B. Vance's stature. I would think he would have signed up for more, but maybe he just wanted the quick paycheck. I can't, to me his role was so weak and underused. I don't even know why he was in it. They could have got anybody to do that part. But anyway, ultimately, like I said, the story is the Mummy. She was set to become the next ruler when her father married again and had a son. So of course, according to those times back then, the son was going to inherit all the father's riches. So she didn't want that. Of course, she was jealous, and so she made a deal with the Egyptian god of death. I forgot what the guy's name was. That she made a deal with him, and she killed her father, she killed her stepmother, and she killed her little brother, and made a pact, and so she could get all the power. She was going to actually kill her lover and let him come back in human form. This personification of death, the Egyptian god of death, was going to come back, and they were going to rule the earth together. Okay, but of course she got stopped before she could do that, and they mummified her, buried her alive, and that's where she was stuck until, of course, Tom Cruise and Jake Johnson's characters come along, and while actually searching for artifacts and being chased, and then there's a big explosion because they call it an air fire, and it blows a big hole, and then they discover her tomb. And then, of course, Annabelle Wallis's character, Jenny, we meet her character in the most, unflattering way to her. She comes and slaps Tom Cruise when she sees him again. She slaps him in the face because he apparently had a one-night stand with her, and he stole her map. Okay, and that's how it led them to try to this actual tomb. And of course, she's real shrew in the beginning of the movie, just yelling at him and telling him what a horrible person Tom Cruise is and all this stuff. And then, of course, when they discover the sarcophagus, they decided to bring it back. And then, of course, Jake Johnson gets bit, and he gets possessed, and then that's when he kills Courtney B. Vance's mother on the plane, flying the mummy back, Sofia Boutella's character back, to London, and then ultimately Tom Cruise winds up killing him, and then you have the scene that you see in the trailers with them when the plane goes down and gets attacked by all these birds, and then he puts the parachute on her and she gets flown out, and then he ultimately crashes, and then of course he's not dead. Well, he's presumed dead, and everybody else that was on the plane presumed dead, but of course she doesn't. She wants the mummy is linked to him. He keeps having visions of her, and she chooses him, Tom Cruise, to be the new vessel for her, for the Egyptian god of death. She's gonna take that knife that she has, and she's gonna, ultimately stab him, and then have the god of death come back and use his body, and they're gonna rule the earth. I guess that's the grand plan. And of course, Tom Cruise is. That's when ultimately Russell Crowe's character gets introduced into the picture. Dr. Henry Jekyll, he's a part of this group called the Prodigium that's supposed to be studying evil, and that's who Annabelle Wallis's character works for. And ultimately, they actually capture the mummy, female mummy, Sofia Boutella. They capture her and take her back to the Prodigium, where they basically filling her blood with mercury that's supposed to slow her powers down. And of course, that's when Tom Cruise, he finds all about what she did and all this stuff. And like I said, he's having visions of her. There's a good, like I said, there's some good scenes in the movie, but ultimately the tone just shifts back and forth. Like there's a great scene where they're running away from Sofia Boutella's character, the mummy, and they get into a van and Tom Cruise drives off, and then ultimately, she's telling him that, the story about the mummy and all that stuff, and then he ultimately, he finds out, they're right back where they started. That basically she's controlling him, and he drove right back to where they were. And so I thought that part was good in the movie. And like I said, I think Sofia Boutella is good as the mummy character too. But I just think the tone's shifting, trying to be comedy at first, and then you have the horror aspects, which I wanted the movie to be more about. I want the movie to have more horror aspects to it, I think. And it has some, especially towards the latter part of the movie, like this, the great scene like you see in the trailer where Tom Cruise is with, Annabelle Wallis, and they're, above that water, and she says, "Stay with me," and then she gets actually dragged down. And then he goes after her, and then you see the mummies chasing him. I thought that scene was pretty cool. And there's a great scene which is kind of played for comedic effect, where she confronts Tom Cruise's character, and her mummies hold him down, and she's going to use the knife to stab him and, kill him, and ultimately bring the Egyptian god of death back. And then Annabelle Wallis's character walks in on that, and it played a lot funnier, than I'm talking about it. But just like I said, the tone of it just like I said, the motives of it was kind of weird, especially because her character. You thought her character, the mummy, she wanted to, to rule the world, but ultimately she was gonna kill Tom Cruise's character to bring the god of death back, and I'm assuming be subservient to him, which kind of didn't make no sense to me. It seemed like she had powers, because you see in the trailer, you see the scene where she whips that sandstorm up in London, and stuff. It seems like she has powers already, but ultimately what she's going to do, bring the god of death back and give him the power? That part never made sense. I can understand if she wanted to say, "I'm going to rule the world and get all the power." So why does she need the god of death? Why does she need him? Why is she going to kill Tom Cruise and give him the power? And then ultimately, you see Tom Cruise, this is what I think they were trying to, I guess, prove a point in the beginning of the movie, where Annabelle Wallis basically insults Tom Cruise's character because he stole the map from her and stuff, and basically had the one-night stand with her, and she tells him, "You don't care about anybody, that you had 15 seconds of human decency in your life." She basically yells at him that basically he's not a good person, and then ultimately at the end, when Sofia Boutella, the mummy character, she actually tells Annabelle Wallis' character, "I'm going to kill you," and she actually kills her. And then Tom Cruise ultimately sacrifices himself. He takes the knife that she was going to sacrifice, and he actually does stab himself, and he gets the powers of the Egyptian god of death, and he actually gets the power, and then he kills the mummy. He kills the female Sofia Boutella's character. He actually kills her, and then he brings Annabelle Wallis's character back to life. And ultimately, I guess Tom Cruise's character is supposed to be like basically he's the god of the Egyptian god of death now, because you see, when he stabs himself, he gets all the power and stuff, and they kind of show him from the shadows, and I think you see one quick shot of him where his hair is all disheveled, and then you see he has like sort of like fangs, and ultimately after he brings her back to life, he basically tells her, "Listen, I wish I had more time," and she tells him that, "No, you're a good person. Look what you did," and then he goes off, and then he brings Jake Johnson's character back to life, and they kind of ride off in the desert to do what I don't know. Okay, and Russell Crowe's character, there's a moment that you see where they actually show you him taking injections, I guess, to stave off his Hyde persona, and then ultimately there's a fight between him and Tom Cruise's character when he finds out that they're basically going to sacrifice him to stop the mummy from getting any more power, and he kind of grabs Russell Crowe's medicine before he could take it, and of course he changes into Henry Hyde, and which I thought was a good scene where he's basically telling Tom Cruise's character, "Listen, I'm not like Dr. Jekyll. I'm not gonna kill you. I want to team up with you." Okay, which was kind of funny, and they're battling for each other and all that stuff, and ultimately he stabs him and gives him the medicine, so he reverts back to Henry Jekyll. But again, this movie tried to be too many different things. Like I said, there were comedic moments in it. Then, like I said, and the romance I didn't buy at all, because like I said, you didn't even see any kind of chemistry between Annabelle Wallis's character and Nick Hunt. The first time you see her, like I said, she's basically screaming at him, and she ultimately slaps him for stealing the map. And then later, they're on the run and all that stuff. And so I didn't buy Tom Cruise's character Nick Morton making this big sacrifice, basically condemning himself to being the god of death to bring her back to life is what he did, and to ultimately stop the mummy. He actually sacrificed himself for her. But I didn't see any great romantic love between them. Okay, I mean, at the most he knew her, what, 1 day or 2 days or whatever it was. So I didn't see no great epic love story out of that. So that to me was a fail on that. Sofia Boutella character as the mummy, I thought she was good, except like I said, her character's motivations was kind of weird, and there was so many unintentionally funny parts in this where basically her character, the mummy, was slapping Tom Cruise around like a Looney Tunes character. She was slapping him back and forth. Like you see the one scene you see in the trailer where Annabelle Wallis's character tells him, "Kick her ass, Nick," and then she just slaps the crap out of him. He goes flying and whoop and lands on him. But there's another tune where she's basically tossing him around like a rag doll. She's like tossing him back and forth like a rag doll. And then ultimately, like I said, I think there's even a line where Tom Cruise basically tells her after he gets, after he stabs himself and becomes the Egyptian god, that he tells her, "Listen, it's not going to happen between us. It's not me, it's you," which is really just a corny line, really a really corny line in an inappropriate moment. Just like I said, had high expectations for this movie going forward. I wanted this movie, and it should have been more horror, I think. But I guess I should have figured it out because they put Tom Cruise in it, and they're releasing it in the summertime. So if this was really a horror movie, they probably would have released it in the fall, which probably would have made more sense. But ultimately, this movie, again, like I said in my other review, it tries to be too many things, and you get an uneven mix of things. Like I said, the original Mummy knew what it was. Not the original Mummy, not the 1932 one with Boris Karloff. That was straight horror, okay, and with the romance. The Brendan Fraser one was like an silly action, romance, and comedy. It was a little bit of horror in it, and it played to its strengths. This movie tries to be all things and winds up being an uneven mess to me, and basically wasted Courtney B. Vance. Okay, his character had a couple of lines and ultimately got killed. Okay, and Sofia Boutella, she's a good actress. I just wish her character would have lasted more or would have survived. Her character ultimately got killed by Tom Cruise's character once he became the Egyptian god of death. I wanted her character to survive into the next movie, but ultimately she died. But then again, they could bring her back, I suppose. And then again, no great chemistry between Tom Cruise and Annabelle Wallis. I didn't think there was that great chemistry, and I didn't buy their this epic love story where he was sacrificing himself basically to bring her back to life. I didn't buy that because I didn't think it was established this great chemistry they had. Russell Crowe I thought was okay, was decent, and I liked his fight with Tom Cruise when he turned into Henry not Henry Jekyll, turned into Mr. Hyde. I did like that part, and Russell Crowe did put on a different accent and different mannerisms when he was actually fighting Tom Cruise, so I like that. And I like the part that he said that he didn't want to kill him, he just wanted to team up with him, which I thought that part made me smile. And ultimately, it's just an uneven mess to me, and I hope going forward they correct it. The next movie is supposed to be, I think, Bride of Frankenstein, directed by Bill Condon, and it's supposed to come out in not 2018, 2019, I think. Yeah, not 20. Yeah, they haven't cast who's going to play the bride. I know Javier Bardem is supposed to be the creature, so I'm just hoping they get a. And I think this movie suffered for having too many script writers. This movie had 4 script writers. Get one guy to do the script, okay? Get a good director. Well, Bill Condon's a good director. I think Alex Kurtzman, who did this movie, I think he was out of his depth. I think they should have really got a horror director to do this, and the horror director probably would have been able to clean up the script a lot better and made this movie ultimately a straight horror movie. Because I love the original Mummy movie with Boris Karloff. This movie is a classic. I've seen this, and it's a classic because this is like ultimately like a tragedy, because the guy, he was ultimately in love with her, but of course she was engaged to somebody else, and then they betrayed, and then he got turned into a mummy, and then he sees a reincarnated version of his love, and he wants to get back with her. So that's a tragedy and horror, and it worked. Okay, this movie tries to be too much, and it's ultimately a letdown. Again, that's why I gave it a 6 out of 10. Like I said, there's some moments in it that make it worth, but ultimately you can save your money and wait till it comes on video and watch it then. Hopefully, I hope going forward they make a better. The next version, next entry into the Dark Universe is better than this one. They're gonna have a. Hopefully, they do it better, because I was really looking forward to the start of the cinematic universe, Dark Universe. Because like I said, I'm a big Universal horror fan, so I was so looking forward to this, and this is like just a really disappointment, and I just hate the fact that they do this. Hopefully, like I said, they get the next one right, and let's cross the fingers. So 6 out of 10 for me. Anyway, what I was going to say, something else, I forgot. If you want to see my original, well, I guess if you're watching this, have to see my spoiler-free review. But ultimately, hopefully, the next movie, which is The Bride of Frankenstein. Although why they don't make Frankenstein first before they make Bride? I don't know, because it makes no sense, because that's the way it was before. Frankenstein came first, and then Bride of Frankenstein. So why are they making Bride before Frankenstein? I don't know. To me, that just makes no sense. But hopefully, they get a decent script. They got a good director, Bill Condon. He's a good director. So hopefully they get a decent script for this one and make it straight horror. Okay, no comedy, please. No, just a straight horror. Okay, just make it straight horror, and I think that's better. Just make a straight horror. And if you want to do these other movies, you're gonna do Frankenstein, Dracula, The Wolfman. Get a horror director, somebody, man, which I'm so looking forward to them doing. I just hope they cast. And, oh yeah, one other thing. This is what I want to say. They didn't have no after credit scene. I stayed
just to see if there was going to be any after credit scenes, which I think was another big mistake. They should have done an after credit scenes. I'm looking at you too, Wonder Woman. But there should have been an after credit scene for this movie, just to let you know what's going to be next. I think they should have shot something. I think that's just ultimately a letdown for me. But anyway, hopefully the next movie will be better, and hopefully, like I said, get horror directors to direct horror movies, please. I think they would be better served. Make the movies horror. That's what they're supposed to be, horror. Okay. I think they try to be all things to all people and wind up with a jumble mess. So try to get a horror movie. I would love if you get. Imagine if you would have got someone like James Wan to direct a Mummy movie. That would have been absolutely fantastic, and you could have actually made it scary horror all the way through. Okay, instead of trying to have a little romance, comedy, action in it, just make a straight horror movie. Okay, a horror. These cinematic universes based on horror creatures, so let the movie be a straight horror. Okay, stop trying to mix and try to be all things to all people. Okay, which to me ultimately is a failure. So 6 out of 10 for me. I don't recommend it. You can wait till it come on video, and hopefully the next one, entry in their Dark Universe, is a lot better. Anyway, let me know what you think of my review. With spoilers, feel free to leave comments down below. And if you like this review, please hit the subscribe button down below. I have links to my Facebook, my Twitter, and my Instagram. Also, my main channel, Trey Passer. The link is in the description box. Please check that out as well. And this is Paul saying so long and take care.